Welcome to the video demo series for Configure.IT. Unleash the hassle-free way to build bug-free mobile apps in the quickest possible turnaround time. So in this video, we're going to discuss layout settings, and we're going to first talk about the iOS settings, and then we're going to sync our iOS to Android, and we'll talk about the Android settings. And so on this first screen, as you can see, I've started off with two buttons, button A and button B. So what we want to do is go ahead and take a look at the advanced settings, and we'll type in hide, and then we'll click on the advanced button. So what this window allows us to do is define how each control will be positioned on the various size screens. As we know, iOS has iPhone 4s, iPhone 5s, 6 Pluses, 7 Pluses, each one with various screen sizes and various resolutions. So the first thing we want to take a look at is this blue area right here, and basically what this does is it aligns the control with the top margin of its parent. So in this example, for example, button 1, its parent is the main view itself. So it's going to align itself with the top of main view. Now, when we positioned button 1 or button A, we actually put it at 100 pixels down from the top. So no matter the size of the screen, button A will always be 100 pixels from the top of main view. Now, one thing to make sure that you take note of is it will always be based on its parent control. In this case, it just happens to be main view. Now, if it were inside an additional view, it would be 100 pixels from the top margin of that view. Okay, so it's always based on its parent view. Now, if we pin it to the left, now it's saying that it's always going to be 100 pixels from the top, and it's right now this button is currently 110 pixels in from the left. So no matter the size of the screen, it will be 100 pixels from the top and 110 pixels from the left. If we change it from the left to the right, basically it's going to pin it all the way to the right, and the distance here will be the size of the control minus the size of the screen. So if we change it from the top to the bottom, again it's going to pin it to the bottom left. Now let's take a look at, we'll go ahead and uncheck these. So now what we want to take a look at are these middle arrows right here. So what these middle arrows do is they define how big the control is going to be in relation to the bigger screen. So if we select this middle arrow, as the screens get larger, that control will actually get larger. If we go from the middle, as it gets wider, the control will also get wider. So we can actually pin it to the left and pin it to the top. So now this control will stay pinned to the top left, and it will stretch left to right and from top to bottom as the screens get bigger. So for this example, we're going to go ahead and turn off the stretching, and we're going to leave it pinned to the top and the left. Now for button B, we will go ahead and do the opposite. So we'll go ahead and go into advanced. So we're going to go ahead and pin it to the bottom right, and we're going to go ahead and stretch it for the bigger size, and this will show you the difference in the two settings. So we'll click save, and we'll go ahead and view how that looks in the app. So I've gone ahead and downloaded the project, and as you can see, the buttons look quite different. So button A stayed pinned to the top and the left and did not stretch the button for the bigger phone size. Now I'm viewing this on an iPhone 6, and you can see button B was pinned to the bottom and to the right, and it did stretch. It stretched the width and the height based on the bigger phone size. Now you understand the advanced settings for defining how your controls react to various phone sizes. So now let's take a look at how we sync this screen to Android and how we position our controls in the Android layout. So the first thing we want to do is come over to sync, and we want to sync screen. And for this one, we just want to sync this current layout screen, and because we don't have an existing screen in Android, we're going to go ahead and create new screen. We're going to check that box, and we're going to click sync. And are we sure? We'll click OK. Okay, So now it's synced to our Android screen, and we can get to our Android screen by coming over here and clicking on the Android button. And you'll see there's four different resolutions. You'll have MDPI, HDPI, XHDPI, and XXHDPI. Now, Android actually has 6 versions. There's one called LDPI, which is low density, and then there's a one above XX, which would obviously be XXXHDPI. But the main resolution that you want to concern yourself with is MDPI. So let's go ahead and click on button A. Now you can see that we have an additional window here that we did not have in iOS. It's called the Android layout setting. We'll move this one over here. And so this is, you'll get this window for each control in Android, and basically because Android has so many different screen sizes, this is a way that you can position each control so that they look the same no matter what resolution. So we'll walk through this window. The first thing is layout width and layout height. Basically, you have 4 options. You have blank, wrap content, match parent, and fill parent. Blank means that no properties are going to apply. So wrap content means that the control is going to stretch and adjust its width with respect to the content that's present in the control. Match parent and fill parent are basically the same control. As you can see, it's going to stretch its width to match the parent. So as you can see that the parent is the main view, it stretched itself to be the same width as the parent, which is 320. And if we go to match parent and fill parent, it's 320. Now if we go to wrap content, you see it didn't change, so we'll have to go back and adjust the width back to 100, and the X position was 110. So again, anytime you change these, it's going to change your coordinates over here and your sizing. So again, if we go back to fill parent, then you can see it filled the width according to the parent, which in this case was main view, which was 320. But again, if you had another view that was maybe 200 pixels wide, then it would be 200 and not 320. Go back and we're going to change that back to blank. And we'll change this back to 100, and that was 100 as well, and the X position was 110. So layout height is very similar to layout width. By default it's blank. Wrap content in this case will expand the control vertically. And match parent and fill parent are the same. So if we do match parent, you can see that the control expands vertically to match the parent. So we'll go back to blank and we'll change these again. So X position was 100 and the width, or I'm sorry, the height was 44. As you can see, there's a couple of options up here is apply horizontal custom properties and vertical custom properties. So these are kind of preset, but if you want specific properties, then you can adjust the properties down here. So let's take a look at the reference types. The first reference type is align parent top, and basically what this means is when we select this, it's going to align that control with the top of its parent. So in this case it was main view, and so it put the Y position at 0. So let's go ahead and get rid of that, and we'll choose blank, and we'll get rid of main view, and now we can move this back down to 100. Now the next reference type is align top. And what this will allow you to do is it will allow you to align the top of this control with any additional control. So for example, button B. So we can't align it with main view, but we can align it with button 2. So we'll click save. Now you can see that button A and button B are aligned with each other. So if we move the X position, you can see that they were just on top of each other, but the tops of them are perfectly aligned. So we'll go ahead and move that back. We'll do 110, And we'll go ahead and clear that, and we'll go to blank, and now we can do 100, and it's back in its original position. So the third option is below. So if we select below, and now we can select an object, and we want it to go below button 2. And now you can see that button A is right below button B. Now you can see that there's no space between button A and button B, so we can provide a little bit of space by adjusting the margin. And the way we would do that is we want to adjust the top margin of button A, and let's say we want 15. And you can see now that it is below button B with a 15 pixel margin between button A and button B. So let's go ahead and get rid of all that. And now we want to take a look at left and right margins. So for the left, we can align parent left. So as you can see, it moves it over to the left. The other option is we can align left. So if we want to align the left margin with button B, we can select align left, and we're going to choose button 2, and now they're back aligned. Now we can also choose to the right of. So basically this is going to put it to the right of whatever control this is, so that it puts it to the right of button B. It's just to the right. It's still in its original vertical coordinates, but it is to the immediate right of button B. Now if we wanted it to be right here next to it, then we would want to come over here and we want to align top and select now we can select button B, and now they're aligned together. Now if we wanted some space right here between the two of them, then we would come over here and we would do a left margin. So we would do 15, hit enter, and you can see now that there's a 15 pixel margin between the two buttons. And that's basically how you control the positioning of different controls in Android. Now, one thing to know on Android is, again, there are different resolution, different screen sizes. So if we go over here to HDPI, you can see that our controls look a little bit different. And if we go over here to XHDPI, you can see our controls look even more different. It's a bigger screen. And then XXHDPI is even a bigger screen. So how do we get all of our controls looking the same without having to go to each resolution and doing the same thing over and over again? Well, the key is on MDPI. So on this screen, if we go back to button A, you can see there's a hard sync right here. So if we do a hard sync, and we're going to change this back to 0, and we're going to go to blank, and we actually want button A to be below button B. So we're going to come over here and we're going to do below. We're going to align left, and we want that 15 pixel margin below button B. So we're going to change 15 and hit enter. And now that we had a hard sync, now we can go over to HDPI, and you can see that button A is below button B and button A is no longer stretched. If we go to XHDPI, you can see that again button A, just like the other screens, is below button B, and the same thing for XXHDPI as well. So as you can see, by selecting the hard sync and then adjusting all of our controls, it adjusted everything in all of our resolutions. So we can go back to HDPI, and if we select button A again, now we can see that hard sync is unselected again. So if we want to make any additional adjustments, we choose hard sync, and then we make our adjustments again. So if we wanted to do this as a 0, and hit enter. Now we can come over to HDPI, and you can see that our adjustment has gone through all of our resolutions. So again, the key is to make all of your changes over on MDPI with a hard sync, and then look at your additional resolutions. Once you've made all of your adjustments on MDPI, you then can come over to your additional resolutions and make any fine tweaks that you need to. So if you need to make any changes on your HDPI, you still have the option to make all of those changes that you want. And once you make these changes in HDPI or XHDPI, those changes are only reflected on those resolutions. It does not affect all your additional resolutions. The only thing that affects your all your resolutions is when you're on MDPI and you do a hard sync. Now, one thing to note though is that if you do add a control in one of these resolutions like an HDPI, and you set the coordinates, that control will be added to all of your other resolutions. So please keep that in mind. So one other thing to keep in mind when you're doing Android is to make sure that you have all of your Android assets in the correct resolution. And the way you know that is if you go to your asset manager, if you don't see this blue arrow, then you know you're missing some assets. So if you open up your assets, you can see which controls you're actually missing. So if you click on the Android tab, so you can see all of your elements right here. Now it's also important to have them named correctly. So whatever your asset name is, you want to have the asset name and then the @ and then the resolution. So in this case, it's at xxhdpi.png, or whether it's a JPEG. And that's it. That's how you configure your layout settings in iOS and in Android. Want to learn more? Visit our Help Center for additional tutorials, our Support Center, and our online community, where our support team will assist you. Keep configuring.